Now, Chechen fighters are still stationed in Ukraine, fighting a war against Ukraine for Russia. They have built their base camp in a hotel at an undisclosed location. In a mega world exclusive, India Today's Geeta Mohan spoke to the Chechen fighters about the war, allegations of torture and killings of civilians. Listen in.
This is an India Today exclusive in an unknown location in the hinterlands of Melitopol. These are Chechen fighters. Why are they here fighting this war between Ukraine and Russia? I'm being joined by Commander Murad over here, who has the Russian flag, the markings of Z, and the markings of being from Chechnya and being a Chechen. Commander Murad, thank you so much for joining us here on India Today. Why are the Chechens fighting this war?
Главный вопрос вам, как командиру Мурат, почему чеченцы участвуют в этой войне?
Ну, как чеченцы, никто не может понять ситуацию, которая творится на сегодняшний день в Украине.
You know that people from Chechnya also suffered from other terroristic regime in Chechnya, and that's why it's difficult to understand for Chechen people what is really happening, why it's really happening in Ukraine, this situation.
Сегодня мы хотим сказать, мы не воюем с Украиной вообще. Мы воюем с режимом, который сегодня жестоко мучает людей. Сегодня вы сами видите ситуацию, которая в Украине.
You see, we are not fighting against Ukrainian people, so we are not fighting against Ukraine. We are fighting against the Nazi regime, because we know many stories that people, the common people, suffered from Nazi regime, and that's why we came here to support them. And he wants to underline that we are not fighting against Ukraine. We just came here to support people and to relieve the power from the Nazi regime.
Commander Murad's son has been arrested in the Zaporozhye area by the Ukrainian forces. He's a man who still continues to participate and to serve the Chechen force. But my question to him is, what is motivating him and many others, and how many Chechen fighters are here right now?
И есть ли у вас информация, какое количество чеченцев приехало сюда для участия в этой операции?
Чеченцы здесь участвуют для того, чтобы помочь народу Украины.
The main motivation for the Chechenian guys who came here, it was the history, because the Chechnya also suffered from the terroristic regime some years ago, and it's very understandable for him, for all Chechenians, how the people in Ukraine suffer from this regime. For example, we know that many crimes against the common people happening in from the special forces or something like that, Nazi battalions and so on. For example, do you remember the situation in Odessa in the 2nd of May? Do you remember the situation in Zaporozhye, Mariupol, when it was impossible for people to lay flowers, to bring flowers on the 9th of May? And that's why we came here just to protect people, to relieve them.
We are in the base camp of the Chechen fighters. We've met Commander Murad, and now we are here in the base camp where the officers and the Chechen fighters are based out of. They live here. It is the month of Ramzan, so this is iftar time, and they just broke their fast and are breaking bread with each other, sharing a meal. But you see, all prepared to ensure that they fight for the Russian side over here. There was a time when the Chechens were fighting the Russians. Today they're fighting with the Russians. And like Commander Murad said, that they are taking orders not just from Ramzan Kadyrov, who is their president of Chechnya, but also their commander-in-chief, President Putin. And that's why the two flags over here represent exactly what the Chechen fighters are here to do. With the journalist Satya in an undisclosed location in Melitopol, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
Melitopol city in Ukraine is ravaged by war. Relentless attacks have left the city in shambles, broken buildings, charred vehicles. The scenes on the streets are of destruction. Refugee camps in Melitopol are also witnessing an influx of civilians who've lost their homes. India Today's Geeta Mohan brings us this report from a refugee camp in the city.
Winters are on their way out and the cherry trees over here in Melitopol have started to blossom. Once a very quiet town, it did not suffer major damage because the Ukrainian forces moved out fast enough. But this house over here suffered severe damage. There was an old lady with a grandchild who was staying here. According to them, a Tochka-U missile of the Ukrainians hit this house. And while the old lady survived, the grandson is no more. There is a lot of loss when it comes to other parts. Nothing compares. But Melitopol is now completely under Russian control, despite the destruction over here. There are only a few places that were attacked, that suffered damage, only a few buildings, and this house was one of them. The area around, a lot of people from the area fearing such attacks moved out, but many are still staying. Some have come back. The old lady who suffered the greatest loss of losing her grandchild is living with a neighbor here in the area. With video journalist Satya in Melitopol, Geeta Mohan for India Today.